Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed your fall break. We're going to go over some problems today for Wednesday. Then you'll do a formative assessment on Thursday over expressions. And then on Friday, you have a Delta math assignment. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is having a long expression like this. So you can see that we have a mixture of variables and numbers. I see minus signs, I see plus signs. So there are some terms you need to be familiar with. So first of all, it asks what are the variables. So in math, you use a variable for an unknown number, and that variable is almost always letters of the alphabet. All right, so what are the variables? I see an X, I see a Y, and I see a Z, right? What about the coefficients? So if you have a variable attached to a number, that number is called a coefficient. So for example, if we have 3x, so the variable is x, this means these two things are being multiplied. 3x means literally 3 times x. And that leading number is called the leading coefficient. So the 3 is the coefficient, the x is the variable, and the entire term is 3x. All right, and going back up to this whole long expression, we do have an exponent, and the exponent is 2. Now this doesn't say 2x squared as in 2x times 2x, only the x is being squared. So if I wrote this out, I would write 2 times x times x. That 2 only belongs to the x. If it was 2x times 2x, then this whole thing right here would be in parentheses like that. All right, but nevertheless, the exponent is 2, and now we're going to identify all the terms. So terms are separated by plus and minus symbols. So here we have a positive term. If you don't have a negative sign or a minus sign in front, it means it's positive. Here we have a minus sign, and plus sign. So this tells us that this 3y is a separate term. However, that minus sign actually belongs to the 3. So this shows that that minus sign tells us that it's another term, but it also tells us that this is a negative term, negative 3y. Here we have a minus sign, which means z is another term. However, like I said, that sign in front of it belongs to whatever that number or that variable is. So this term is negative z. And then we see plus 6, which simply means this is a positive 6. So the last term is positive 6. So the terms are 2x squared. The second term is negative 3y. The third term is negative z. And the fourth term is positive 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. All right, now factor in math, of course, factors are numbers or variables that are being multiplied together. So for example, if you have 2x, that literally means 2 times x. So for the term 2x, there are 2 factors. 2 is a factor and x is a factor for the whole term 2x, because those 2 things are being multiplied together. Now that set of parentheses in math also means multiplication. So this is literally saying 4 times the quantity 8 plus 3x. So 4 is a factor of this entire term, and 8 plus 3x is a factor of this entire term, because this is being multiplied by all of this. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now this is held together with that plus sign. You can't separate these, but within this part of the expression, 3x is a term and 8 is a term. And 3x, there are 2 factors of 3x, which are 3 and x. All right, so like I said, terms can be numbers, normal numbers like a 12. They can be a variable by itself, so x could be a term, or the product of a number and a variable, like 2w, that's a term, or the quotient of a number and a variable, like c divided by, c divided by 3. This is a term. So these 4 things can all represent terms. Now, whether we put plus symbols or minus symbols in between them depend on what the sign of each term is. So, like I said, terms are separated by plus symbols and minus symbols. So here we go. We have all this stuff. The question is, how many terms do we see? Well, let's look for minus and plus signs. So we have one there, one there, one there, and one there, right? So this is a term. This whole thing is a term. This is a term. This whole thing is a term. And this is a term because a minus sign or a plus sign separates them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. And what are they? The first term is positive 3a. You don't have to write a positive sign. You don't have to write the plus if it's positive. But if you have a negative term, you must write the negative sign. Okay. What about the second term? The second term is negative 2/5 b. You must write the sign if it's negative. What's the third term? The third term is positive 7x. The fourth term is negative 4z. And the fifth term is 52, positive 52. Those are all the terms, and there are 5 of them. All right, what is a constant? Well, in math, a term that is a number only. In other words, a number not attached to a variable is called a constant. So for example, if I have the expression 3x plus 4, well, which of these terms is not attached to a variable? That would be the positive 4. So in this situation, 4 is the constant. We've already talked about coefficient, but a coefficient is the number value in front of a variable in a term. Now you have to have, in order to have a coefficient, you have to have a number multiplied by a variable like these two. So what is the coefficient of this term? The coefficient is 2. Of this whole term. This whole term, the coefficient is negative 4. And of course, the variable is y here and x here. Okay, so you got to just memorize these vocabulary terms and definitions. So here we have a long expression, 3x minus 6y plus 18. The first question is, what are the coefficients? The coefficients are 3 and negative 6. And the constant, of course, is the number not attached to a variable. The constant is an 18. All right, so here's some questions that you're going to have as you do the formative assessment on this section that you'll have tomorrow. The question is, what is the coefficient of the variable in this whole expression? Well, all of these terms are constants except for the second term. The second term is the only one attached to a variable. So the coefficient is negative 5. Now, like I said earlier, if it's positive, you don't have to write positive, but it has a minus sign in front of it, you have to write the minus sign. So if you told me the coefficient of this variable is a positive 5, or you just wrote 5, that would not be correct. All right, what is the constant term in the expression 6x to the third y? That's one whole term, because there's no plus or minus signs in there. The second term is 7x squared. The third term is positive 5x. And the fourth term is positive 4. There's only one constant, which means it's not attached to a variable. And the answer is 4. Which expression shows a sum of 5 terms? What does sum mean? In math, it means we're adding together 5 different terms. So here we have 2 terms, x plus 5 being multiplied by 5, right? Here we have 5 plus x plus 5 plus x plus x. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms, and they're all being added. So it must be letter B. And then C, if I wrote this out, I would write X times X times X times X. So this is actually the product of 5 terms. Or actually, that's not true. This whole thing is considered a term. Why? Because there's no plus or minus signs. So this is just X 5 times. It's not 5 terms, it's 1 term. All right, how many variable terms are in this expression? So variable terms, obviously, we're only counting the terms that have variables in them. So how many terms do we have? First of all, we have 1 term, 2 terms, 3, 4, 5 different terms because they're separated by plus and minus signs. So how many of those 5 have variables? Well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the only one that doesn't have a variable is 9. So the answer is 4. Now, just for a side note, it looks like there's no coefficient on this term of Z, but there is actually, because what times something equals itself? The answer is 1. Isn't 1 times 5, 5, and 1 times 10, 10? Well, 1 times Z is also Z. So the coefficient, even though it's not shown, is a 1. So every variable has a coefficient. If you don't see it, it's a 1. All right, so on Friday, you're going to do some Delta math problems, and some of them are going to involve order of operations. So we talked about this before fall break. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, second, multiplication and division in order from left to right, and the last one is add and subtract in order from left to right in the math problem. So look at this problem. Do we have parentheses? No. Do we have exponents? Absolutely. So 9 squared is 81. That means 9 times 9. Plus and minus comes last. So now we can go ahead and multiply 6 times 1. 6 times 1 is 6. So we did our exponent, we did multiplication. The last thing we're going to do is add those 2 numbers. So 81 plus 6 is 87 for the correct answer. All right, the next one, I don't see parentheses, but I do see an exponent right here. So we must do that first. So it's not 10 times 4, 40 squared. No. We multiply after we do exponents. So first thing we do is 4 squared. 4 times 4 is 16. All right, so now we get to take care of our multiplication and add and subtract last. Multiplication, I see minus and add, we're going to do that last. So 10 times 16 is 160. I'm going to bring down my minus sign. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 3, and now I'm going to go in order from left to right. So 160 minus 18 is 142, and 142 plus 3 is 145. All right, I feel pretty confident about that. Yeah. Okay. So what is the value? So remember, we do parentheses first. However, within the parentheses, we do have an exponent. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and square 7. So we're going to do 79 plus 49 and keep that together. We can't divide by 2 to the 3rd power until we got to keep this together. So then we have another exponent, 2 to the 3rd power. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So now this stays together. So let's simplify this first. So 79 plus 49 is what? 7, 8, 9, 128, I think. 128 over 8. So we got to keep all that together. And then the last thing we're going to do is divide. And we get 16, I think. Pretty sure. Double check me on that one. All right, now the last section on Delta Math you're going to do is writing. You're going to get word phrases and you have to write them as an algebraic expression. Okay, these can be tricky, so think about what you're doing. It says 3 is multiplied by the difference. The difference, we got to keep this together. The difference of what? The difference of a 7 and a number. We have to keep that together. The difference of 7 and a number, that means subtraction. And you cannot flip the value, the order. If it says 7 first, you have to write 7. And now it's 3 multiplied by this quantity. So we're going to write that. Okay. If you write 3 times 7 minus x, that's not right. The difference of 7 and a number must stay together. Okay. This way you're only multiplying 3 times 7 and then you're subtracting x, which is not right. All right, the difference of 3 and the difference of 3 and the difference of 3 and, right? You have to write it in order. And what? The product of 3 and a number. The product of 3 and a number must stay together. The product of 3 and a number. So the difference of 3 and, so there's difference. The product of 3 and a number. That's it. So 3 minus 3x. The product of 5 and, so 5 times something, 5 times what? The difference of 1 and a number. The difference of 1 and a number, that means subtraction. And we're multiplying 5 times that whole quantity, the difference of 1 and a number. So that is the answer. If you just write 5 times 1 minus x, that's not right. That's saying only what's 5 times 1 minus x, which is not the same thing as this. Twice the difference, twice the, what is that going to look like? The difference of what? The difference of a number and 3. The difference of a number and 3 must look like a number, the difference of a number and 3. That's the difference of a number and 3, and it's twice that whole quantity. Ooh, these are tricky, you guys. You're going to have to be using parentheses correctly in this section. So make sure if they give you an opportunity for an explanation, that make sure you check that out. All right, I hope that helps. So if you guys need any help, let me know. I hope everyone has a great week, and I will talk to you guys or at least message you soon.